UAPs or UFOs, and more specifically USOs, unidentified submerged objects, things that could be traveling through the water and the sky in ways that we can't explain. And before we dive into that conversation, I want to keep things in perspective, so we're going to set it up with these two videos in particular. This video, which shows the tail end of a very weird encounter between some fighter pilots flying off the Nimitz aircraft carrier and some weird tic-tac thing off the coast of California that, according to the wing commander, seemed to have been communicating with some much larger craft underneath the surface of the ocean before it flew away at insane speeds. And then there's this video. This is from Puerto Rico. It was captured by CBP, and it seemed to show an object fly in the air, then at one point dip into the ocean without losing speed, which is very, very, very weird. We're talking about those two videos today because there's this new paper out by an extremely high-ranking former Navy officer and oceanographer who references them and says very clearly, quote, "The fact that unidentified objects with unexplainable characteristics are entering U.S. water space and the DoD is not raising a giant red flag is a sign that the government is not sharing all it knows about all-domain anomalous phenomenon," end quote. So with us today is the author of that paper, retired Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet. In your opinion, are there things moving around in our oceans in ways that we cannot explain with conventional science? And do you have any examples?
100%. And you just showed two videos of those, Gotti, but also I know of eyewitness accounts from submarine officers as well as intelligence specialists who've seen classified video of these types of objects. We know now from that draft legislation that there are non-human intelligences visiting us in all domains, the sea, the sky, and we see reports over land. And they're using what they call in this amendment technology of unknown origin. So this is a national or global security concern.
I gotta ask, what do you think it is?
There's a number of possibilities. I don't know, and most of the intelligence community does not know. But it could either be from elsewhere in the universe. Some people speculate it could be from another dimension, but I don't think we have the mathematics to just explain that, or the physics just yet, or even possibly within the planet somewhere. None of this is known, and that's why we really need deliberate and expanded scientific research on these phenomena to understand that.
Do you think there is other intelligent life outside the Earth?
It seems probable, but I think this is one of the great questions in physics and philosophy, is where are the aliens? Maybe they're among us, I don't know. Some people think I'm an alien.
The public basically has been totally lied to. We're considered stupid or even moronic in some cases. The military's known about the alien question for the better part of 70 years, and they first saw their glimpse of what was going on as early as 1909 in the American Southwest.
Okay, so the template that you're using to understand this is like science fiction, right? These are an advanced race of beings from somewhere else. But the template that every other society before us has used is a spiritual one. Mm-hmm. There is a whole world that we can't see that acts on people, a supernatural world that's acting on us all the time for good and bad. Every society has thought this before ours. In fact, every society in all recorded history has thought that until, I'll be specific, August 1945, when we dropped the atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and all of a sudden the West is just officially secular. We're God. There is no God but us. And that's the world that we have grown up in, but that's an anomaly. Like, no one else has ever thought that. There's never been a society that thought that. Every other society has assumed, and they've had all kinds of different explanations, and the details differ, but the core idea does not differ, it never has differed from caves until now, that we're being acted on by spiritual forces at all times. And so to someone born before or living before 1945, I think it would have been much more obvious that this is the thing that every society has written about. And in fact, that battle, that unseen battle around us, that spiritual battle, has been the basis of every society, of every religion, not just Christianity. So it just, once you discard your very, very recent assumptions, relatively speaking, about how the world works, you're like, well, that kind of seems like the obvious explanation, right? The deeper level is, so if they're spiritual beings, which I believe they are, it's a binary. They're either, you're on team good or team bad. You can assign any name to it you want, but what are these things? Are they good or bad? and I think some of them are bad. And if the U.S. government knows that, or the people within the U.S. government know that, then they're serving a bad force. And
well, when you say spiritual, like what makes you draw that conclusion that they're spiritual?
What's the obvious? I mean, spiritual may be the wrong word. Supernatural. They're beyond nature as we understand it. I mean, obviously they are. I mean, just chart their physical behavior. It doesn't, it goes outside of what we understand about physics. No visible means of propulsion, coming at indescribable speed, hitting the ocean, continuing at speeds that are impossible undersea. I mean, in other words, if I take a 9mm round or 7.62 by 39 and shoot you at 50 yards underwater in a swimming pool, and it's even more intense in salt water because it's denser, you could catch the bullet if it even makes it to you, right? So if you have a craft, any object underwater that's traveling at 500 knots as measured by sonar, right there you're challenging our understanding of physics. Like, what is that? How can that be? So yeah.
They've tracked that? They've tracked things going 500 knots under the sea?
Yeah, really. Yeah, much faster than any object can actually go undersea. Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on underwater, and a lot. And there's video of these things coming out of the sky into the water and also emerging from the water.
Right.
Yeah. So
it's all so blurry, though.
I don't think it's
the
that
transmedium video.
Yeah, I don't think some of it's that blurry. I think some of it's crystal clear.
We just don't have access to it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Just we haven't seen it?
Correct.
So they have some stuff.
For sure. So, but there's just a lot going on underwater, and it's measured. And so, whatever. I mean, these are all, again, this is like the most obvious observable level of it, but then you just ask yourself, like, what is this actually? And, if there's been extensive knowledge of this for decades, like maybe 80 years at least, if not going back to the 30s, 90 years, to what end? So there are two possible explanations, obvious explanations. The first is the one you often hear, which is this is so heavy that if the public were to know about it, it would be just disruptive. It would be too scary. Like, you don't want to scare people for no good reason. There's nothing we can do about it. And you also don't want to suggest that, the U.S. military isn't capable of protecting the country, the homeland. And it does suggest that. If you can't control these objects in your airspace, and that's known, that they can't, that's known, okay, then that suggests a limit to the power of the U.S. military, and you don't want to tell people that because then they, won't believe that they're safe. I get it. But then there's a deeper level, which is okay, what's your relationship with these things? What is the U.S. government's relationship with these things? And there's evidence that there is a relationship and that it's a long-standing. Yes, the U.S. government clearly does possess a lot of technology that is not publicly known about or available or only in fragments. I mean, that's clearly true. You've done a lot on this. That's why I first reached out to you, because you did such an amazing segment on that. I was shocked by it, how great it was. That's why I'm sitting here. So you know all this. And it's clearly that's part of it, but there are other things that are clearly not, that baffle the U.S. government. Here's what I'm really surprised by, and I've actually stopped gathering string on, as we say in reporting, stopped gathering string in this, gathering information, because I'm satisfied that I know enough, and I don't really want to know that much more. Because what I think I know is, this doesn't help me at all to know that. So that's a conclusion I've reached. I'm usually pretty curious. I've stopped being curious about this because I don't want to know anymore. But
you truly don't want to know anymore about it.
I think I know. I think I know what's up. So I can't prove it, so I'm probably not going to articulate it, but I think I know what's up, yeah. But
can you articulate it?
Well, I think it's a really old story. I think it's a really old story. So that's what I think.
What is it?
Well, one, I'm a Christian, and I am fairly sincere about it. I try to be sincere about it. More sincere than ever, for sure. But one thing that you notice about every world religion I'm familiar with, I'm interested in that topic, there are commonalities between religions. Jesus is unique, and I believe in Jesus, so I don't believe in any kind of pantheology, okay? I don't think they're all equal or anything like that. I think mine is correct. I think that. Sorry. But there are commonalities that are very striking between all world religions I'm aware of, and all creation myths. And one of them, and this is of course true for Christianity, very true, is that the belief that supernatural beings take physical form. They all believe that. The Greek myths, Jesus, most famously, but that they take physical form, that they're not just like some ethereal, they're not just shadows floating around, specters, fog, that they're physical, like they're as real as the arm of your chair. And that they reproduce with people. Again, Christianity believes that. Jesus, immaculate conception, spirit reproduces with human woman. That's what the story is. It is described in Genesis as well, in Genesis 6. Again, it's not just the religion of the ancient Hebrews or the religion of the modern Christians. It's Hinduism as well, and the animist religions, the religions of, to the extent we understand them or know about them, of the American Indians, all the same. So if every culture in the world that we know about, who's left any kind of written or physical record, is reaching the same conclusions about something, maybe there's something there. And maybe it's not so crazy to think that what everyone else has always thought since the beginning of time, which that there is this combination in cases of, human beings and the spiritual realm, whatever that is. I can speak about it with no precision at all because I don't understand the specifics of it, but I know that it has been written about since people have been writing. And so it's a little weird to think that in 1945, really the day we dropped that first bomb on Hiroshima, from then until now, it's just a speck of time in the continuum of history. For that one period, we've assumed that's not true, but everyone else has always assumed it is true. I'm kind of going with everyone else on that, just on the odds, okay? It's a very long-winded way of answering your question, but I think that's kind of what we're looking at.
First of all, angels can shapeshift. We know that the dragon, the enemy Satan, can appear as an angel of light, not his true form. The Greek word, and this was taught to me by my good friend and brother who's no longer with us, Russ Dizar, the Greek word is metaskismonosai. They have the ability to shapeshift and present themselves basically however they want to. They can appear as your grandmother, your dead grandmother, if they choose to. Greys, the greys with the big heads and the almond eyes, there's no reproduction system that's there. They don't eat. So what are we looking at? In my opinion, these are avatars. They are essentially meat suits. They are biological constructs for the demons. What are demons? Demons are the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim. Let's back up. The seed of the dragon will be at war with the seed of the woman. So that's Genesis 3:15. That's the gateway to the rest of the biblical prophetic narrative. So the seed war erupts 3 chapters later. Fallen angels come down. We know that from the book of Enoch. 200 of them in the days of Jared on Mount Hermon. And by the way, Mount Hermon is Nephilim Central. That's where all the mischief, as Chuck Missler liked to call it, begins. That's the nexus. That's the starting point. So the Nephilim are the offspring of fallen angels and human women, creating a hybrid being known as the Nephilim. They were never supposed to be here. This is why the flood of Noah occurs. That's number one. So the Greys, let me back up. The Nephilim perish in the flood. They become the disembodied spirits which roam the earth, i.e. demons. How do we know that? The book of Enoch. Those of you who have an issue with the book of Enoch, I'll just say this. Jude quotes the book of Enoch. It was obviously widely read in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd centuries. Jude's quoting from the book of Enoch. Is it part of our canon? Now it's not. But in the Ethiopian Bible, it precedes the book of Genesis. In my opinion, if you were going to keep one book from the people, you keep the book of Enoch. You're going to keep one book away from the people of the world. That's the book you keep out. Because it tells you exactly what's going on. Fallen angels are coming down. They're grabbing the women. They're going into them multiple times. They're having children by them. These are hybrid beings known as the Nephilim. They are soulless. So you've got demons wandering the earth. They're earthbound. So what does the dragon do? The dragon knows that a demon, in order for a demon to manifest, has to inhabit a person, has to inhabit an animal or an object. So what does the dragon do? He creates the Greys. It's a biological construct. It's an avatar. How do we know this? Because experiencers, people who have been on board the ships, including Whitley Strieber, talks about seeing the Greys stacked up like cordwood, stacked up like chairs, okay? One on top of each other. And there is no reproduction system, as I said earlier. There doesn't seem to be a digestive system. So they're biological suits. They're expendable. I remember sitting down with the late David Flynn and talking to him about this, and he also agreed on that. So let's walk through it. Fallen angels are fallen angels. They've come down and they create through grabbing the women and having sex with the women. Okay, and for some of you out there, you got a real problem with that, but that's what happens. They create a hybrid being known as the Nephilim. The flood happens, the Nephilim are wiped out. The disembodied spirits of a Nephilim are the demons that roam over the earth. Disembodied spirits, in order to manifest, need something to dwell in. A human being, a group of animals like the swine, where Jesus cast out legion from the man of the tombs, and they go into the swine, or an object. So you've got the Nephilim, the disembodied spirits, which become the demons, the grays, where the demons can inhabit those biological constructs, those suits, and they can manifest in this dimension. They're interdimensional entities, in my opinion.
The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.